It's caused absolute devastation. The current outbreak of foot and mouth disease in Britain has ruined farmers, seen livestock slaughtered, and now threatens much of Europe. The bill is running into billions, but this grim toll may be nothing compared to what awaits with mad cow disease. Now, the worst scenario is that millions of people may die. Now, theoretically, anyone who ate beef in Britain in the last 15 years is at risk. One steak, one hamburger could prove fatal. But what makes this tragedy even more awful is the reprehensible conduct of the British government, as it tried to keep the risks hidden from an unsuspecting public. The first sign of something wrong was Peter Hall's hair. This 19-year-old from Newcastle in the northeast of England loved his music and loved his long hair. But then, suddenly, he just didn't wash it anymore. Next, he began to lose interest in life. And then, one awful day, his parents, Derek and Frances, saw he could hardly walk.
He was swaying when he walked, he was bumping into doorways.
And this is what, 3 months after the first symptom?
And that's when we really panicked and rang for a doctor.
But you got no idea what he's suffering from?
Nothing at all, just that it was something that was, deteriorating rapidly.
Specialists performed countless tests, but there were no answers. Peter was deteriorating quickly, and he soon became a hopeless invalid. Watching her son waste away, it was Frances Hall's intuition that had her suspect the same illness that was afflicting massive numbers of Britain's cows.
Articles were starting to appear in the press of young people dying from this mysterious illness. The common sense explanation was that these young people had eaten infected beef and were dying from what was killing the cattle.
At its best, the English countryside rightly boasts of its unique beauty. At its worst, it is very ugly. Mad cow disease was identified in the mid-80s as bovine spongiform encephalopathy, a transmissible disease that causes holes in the brain. Simon Banfield, a farmer in Dorset, lost more than 100 head to BSE, and he became an expert in picking the early signs.
To begin with, you just notice a slight change in the temperament of the animal, that she becomes unsteady on her feet. If you look closely, it's quite apparent that she has a severe headache. And as it progresses, she might even become violent, and hence the term mad cow. Eventually, she'll remain on the ground and will be unable to stand up correctly on her 4 feet.
For donkey's years, farmers like Simon across Britain and most of the rest of the world had been feeding their cattle bone meal as a protein supplement to increase their output. Bone meal is made primarily from waste meat products from abattoirs. What the farmers were doing was essentially turning their cattle from being grass eaters into meat eaters, and through this process they contracted mad cow disease. 5 years ago, the British government believed mad cow disease could not jump the species barrier, could not jump from cows to humans. British beef was safe, they said.
We rely on Professor Southwood and his independent experts who said the theoretical risk of BSE was remote.
We are fairly confident that there is no risk to human health.
The public is not at risk from BSE.
At one point, the Agriculture Minister made a complete ass of himself when he sought to force a hamburger down the throat of his 4-year-old to show just how disease-free British meat was. How do you view the role played by Her Majesty's bureaucracy?
Not in a very good light. I think all the families that have suffered this way feel that the previous government, the Conservative government, were responsible for the death of our loved ones. And I think that was a calculated decision that was made somewhere, not on paper, but somewhere, in the halls of power that that would cost the country a lot of money if people stopped buying beef.
One group suggests that it may be at a maximum of about 250,000 people becoming infected. Another group suggests it may be 10 million.
Dr. Stephen Dealer is a microbiologist at the forefront of research into BSE. His views, scorned by some, are really quite apocalyptic.
What we're actually seeing is a condition which has a very long incubation period. Most of the time they'll be completely asymptomatic, they'll have no signs or symptoms at all.
Let me get the scale of this right. There are 60 million people here in Britain, and theoretically 10 million are infected.
That's right.
That's bigger than the Black Death.
Oh, it's more than that. It's more than that. If it does reach the millions point, it's much greater.
Zoe Jeffries has been the youngest victim of mad cow so far. She was just 12 years old when the symptoms took hold.
She just gradually lost control of everything, all her body. She couldn't control her legs or her arms.
Zoe's mother, Helen, took this harrowing home video of her daughter's suffering and asked that it be shown on British TV to confront people with the horror of the disease.
She would hurt herself a lot because she got very agitated, and we had to put all quilts at the side of her bed because she hurt herself on them. You feel helpless. But basically, she just lost all her bodily functions and had no control at all.
In the shadow of Edinburgh Castle in Scotland, government scientists are undertaking a national forensic study into what is looming as an epidemic. Mad cow is not a virus, not a bacteria. It's a common body protein that, when stimulated by infected meat, causes the brain to become riddled with holes. Professor Robert Will is Scotland's chief scientist at the CJD surveillance unit. Is the thinking that the people suffering contracted the disease from eating, say, one hamburger, or it was a cumulative effect of having eaten many, many hamburgers?
My own opinion about that is that we simply don't know. My own view of that is that it's more likely that this was perhaps 1, 2 or 3 exposures rather than a whole lot of exposures over a period of time. And one of the important facts at present is that there have been no more than one case of variant CJD in any family, even though there's obviously a potential that those family members were exposed to the same type of diet.
Dr. Will's guesstimate of possible victims is not in the apocalyptic millions, but still a terrifying figure, maybe in excess of 100,000. The death of their sister Zoe has had Helen's 2 younger daughters, Tamsin and Faye, swear off meat forever.
They check everything they eat.
Do they?
If I'm buying something different, they check the ingredients on everything.
What, looking for meat?
Looking for meat or anything to do with meat, gelatine. If anything's got gelatine in, they won't touch it.
So even at the age of 9, that young Faye has that in her mind?
Yeah. Yeah, they've seen what it can do.
Where the British government is truly culpable is that when they banned bone meal because they knew it was poisoning their own cattle, they still continued to export that very same bone meal to 69 other countries. But thankfully, not Australia.
Absolutely horrified the scientific community, because we knew wherever it got sent to, it wouldn't just be fed to pigs and chickens, it would get fed to cows. And a lot of people actually from the scientific profession tried to stop it.
This was the food you decided was too bad to give to your own cows.
That was incompetence. I couldn't justify that in any way. So the disease has already started to expand in France and Belgium and Germany.
With permission, Madam Speaker, I would like to make a statement.
It was not until 2:30 in the afternoon of March 20, 1996, that the British government finally told the whole truth.
The Secretary of State for Health stood up in the House of Commons and announced that there was a probable link between BSE and a new disease in human beings, and things have changed greatly since then.
There remains no scientific proof that BSE can be transmitted to man by beef, but the committee have concluded that the most likely explanation at present is that these cases are linked to exposure to BSE before the introduction of the specified bovine offal ban in 1989.
Quite frankly, it's a day that changed all our lives. It's a sort of a similar date that the Americans might think refers to Pearl Harbor. Nothing will ever be the same again after that.
2 months ago, Australia banned all European meat products. Shelves were wiped clean of foreign salami, foreign beef stock, gelatin, even mascara. Back in Britain, at-risk stock have been slaughtered and incinerated in their millions. Today, every cow requires its own passport, asserting that it, at least, is not suspect.
So it is not just a name, it is genuinely a passport.
It's a genuine passport, and this animal is absolutely worthless unless accompanied by this passport. That passport will remain on the same holding with the animal until it leaves to go to the abattoir.
The British say they've taken all necessary precautions against a further spread. Maybe they have, but the legacy of their earlier willful inaction is an unknown number of people yet to show up with the disease in their own country, and heaven knows how many more in foreign countries.
We're still eating cows which we think may actually have become infected when they were very young. That is still happening. And so we may actually find incubation periods in humans of between about 16 and about 45 years, something like that.
So this is around for the rest of, well, my life.
I'm afraid so. You'll find people dying of this disease probably for the next 50 years.
Hello, I'm Sarah Arbo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.